Hi poetry lovers, welcome to my channel Bella Poetry. My name is Bella and I love beautiful poetry. In our previous segment we discussed the life and the poetry of Emily Dickinson, a famous poet, American poet that was born in 1830. Today we will talk about Emily Dickinson's contemporary. Her name was Christina Rossetti. She was born in 1830, but across the Atlantic Ocean. She was born in London, England. Her father, Gabriele Rossetti, was a political exile and teacher of Italian language, and he immigrated to England in 1824. In 1827, he met his wife, Frances Polidori, who was also half Italian, and they fell in love and got married and had 4 children in very quick succession. The first child was Maria, then came Dante, who later became a famous artist and a poet, then William. William was the serious one. He later became also a scholar and a sole financial supporter of the whole family. And the 4th child was Christina Rossetti. The children were very close in age, so they played together and they got along famously and even made their own newspaper called Hodgepodge. And they put their little stories and poems there. When Christina was 11 years old, she wrote a poem for her mother. So this was her first poem. And so everything went well, and children and the parents, it was a beautiful family, a wonderful childhood. Christina and her brother Dante were called by their father Gabriele 2 storms, and William and Maria were called calms because Christina and Dante were not very obedient. They were kind of wild. Christina herself wrote in one of her letters that when she got upset with her mother when she was very young, she took the scissors and cut her arm. And Dante was also kind of a wild one, so they got along well. Christina worked very hard on being more controlled, of having more self-control, being more reserved, and she succeeded, but a little over the top. Dante wrote, her brother Dante wrote that she kind of lost her spontaneity and didn't express her emotions openly. She was very, very reserved and controlled. Something happened when Christina turned 12. Her father Gabriele, who at that time was the chair of Italian language department in King's College, lost his vision. He became almost blind, and he had to quit his position and stay at home. And her mother Frances went to work as a governess because the family experienced a lot of financial difficulties. So that left Christina with her father at home. And we don't know exactly what happened. Some people suggest that she suffered some kind of sexual trauma. Maybe her father engaged in inappropriate relationship with her. But at the age of 15, Christina suffered a mental breakdown, and she's never been the same. In spite of her condition, physical and mental, Christina wrote a lot. She published her first 2 poems when she was 18 years old. She published them in a magazine. When she was 32, she published her first book of poetry called Goblin Market and Other Poems. And that book was followed by many others. Books of poetry, stories, and even a volume of children's rhymes called Sing Song. So, Christina also engaged in charitable work. She donated her time at the church where she worked with fallen, so to speak, women. She also spoke ardently against slavery and against child prostitution. But by the age of 40, which was 1870, Christina was diagnosed with Graves' disease. This is a kind of a thyroid condition that alters the person's appearance. And so though she recovered more or less by 18, 72, that kind of changed the way she looked, made her very self-conscious, and I think it was the beginning of her developing social anxiety. They said Christina was very, as her whole family, very religious. She was Anglo-Catholic, and when she attended the church on Sundays, she would be the first to come in order to sit in the first row, and she was the last to leave, probably because she wanted to avoid social interactions with other parishioners, or she just avoided to be seen. She didn't like people to look at her. She stayed at home. Her personal life was non-existent. She got 3 marriage proposals when she was younger, and she rejected all her suitors because she wanted to find somebody that shared her religious beliefs, and all these 3 men didn't. I think later in life she quite regretted this decision because she never got married and never had children. So at the age of 62, Christina Rossetti was diagnosed with breast cancer. They actually performed mastectomy on her in her own home. And at the age of 64, in 1894, Christina Rossetti passed away after months of terrible suffering. I'm going to read to you today 3 poems by Christina Rossetti. The first poem she wrote, she loved nature, and she wrote a poem which was called Who Has Seen the Wind? This is actually one of my very favorite poems of Christina Rossetti. Who has seen the wind? Neither I nor you. But when the leaves hang trembling, the wind is passing through. Who has seen the wind? Neither you nor I. But when the trees bow down their heads, the wind is passing by. The second poem actually talks about death. Christina Rossetti, just like Emily Dickinson, wrote poetry about death because there was a lot of death around them. This was the time where people didn't have medicine against typhus, tuberculosis, and so forth. When I'm dead, my dearest, when I'm dead, my dearest, sing no sad songs for me. Plant thou no roses at my head, nor shady cypress tree. Be the green grass above me, with showers and dewdrops wet. And if thou wilt, remember, and if thou wilt, forget. I shall not see the shadows, I shall not feel the rain, I shall not hear the nightingale sing on as if in pain, and dreaming through the twilight that doth not rise nor set. Happily I may remember, and happily may forget. This is it for this segment of Bella Poetry. I hope you learned about the life of Christina Rossetti and that you enjoyed learning about her life and you enjoyed listening to her poetry. Please come back next week. We'll be talking, in our next segment, we'll be talking about Elizabeth Barrett Browning, another wonderful poet of 19th century, or what we call Victorian era. Thank you for listening. Please remember to press the subscribe button so you can listen to our following segments. Goodbye.